Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Buffalo
Giants.
Podcast. All right, everyone. Well, we got our usual opener of Keep 4, Cut 4. This is two players from each team that are left in the playoffs, Brian. They could play any position, so we'll go from there.
Okay.
So, your first one is going to be Drake May.
I'm gonna have to keep Drake, man. I mean, if we're going best 8 players of teams left, I don't think there's any way I can pass on a starting quarterback. I mean, there's only 3 of them really at this point with Stidham starting. For the Broncos, right? So I feel like I'm gonna have to keep 3 of the starting quarterbacks that you name here, and probably like a JSN. Maybe there will be a conversation between like a Sam Darnold and a Puka Nakua or something like that. But Drake May's got to get kept for me.
Be funny if you keep that logic. I could win one, maybe. I got Nick Benito.
Nick Benito is extremely impactful on the defensive side of the ball. You pay guys a lot for that, very valuable. However, again, I think that you're going to throw, Matt Stafford in here. I think Puka Nakua will be on this list. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba will be on this list. So I've already taken Drake May. I'm going to have to pass on Nick Benito.
Oof, rough life. All right. The next player is Puka Nakua.
I got to keep Puka Nakua. I mean, he has been absolutely brilliant. I'd argue he's potentially the best wide receiver in the league over the last 2 years. If you're taking production per minutes played, I'd say like this past game against the Broncos was probably one of his worst games over those last 2 years. In terms of he played the entire game and kind of got bottled up between the defense and the weather. So, I got to keep him though. He's one of the most important players in the league.
All right, your next player is Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Keeping Jackson Smith and Jigba every single day of the week.
Very well. So far you've kept Drake May, Puka Nakua, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, and you cut Nick Bonito. The next player you have is Nathan Landman.
He is an absolute cut. He is having a very good season. But this is a guy who was, I believe, on the Falcons last year and got cut. So playing really well. Definitely understand why he's on this list. But more of a breakout guy than someone who's of the caliber of the guys I'm keeping.
All right, the next player you have is Christian Gonzalez.
This is a tough one because he's played incredible this season. But do I think he's more valuable than a guy like Drake May or who may be on this list and a Matt Stafford? Certainly not more important, I would say, than a Puka Nakua and a Jack Smith and Jigba. Although extremely, extremely important to a championship defense, having a cornerback of that caliber. I have to cut him though. I have to expect that Matt Stafford is going to be on this list. And if I get bit by that and keep an auto pick in the 8th, then so be it.
Your second last player is PS2.
Okay. Again, I would say a better cornerback than Christian Gonzalez. There is some potential want to take Passertan here because of how good he is. Now, I will say there are some injury concerns that have popped up this year after that Defensive Player of the Year campaign last year. Um, you know, given that you're saying this name, there's certainly a number of guys that you could say here that aren't Matt Stafford. You could go with guys like Colby Parkinson, AJ Barner, some of these guys, Kenneth Walker, Blake Corum, who I wouldn't be mad at all if that's who I was taking with the 8th spot, given he's a Michigan guy, Kyron Williams. So there is a lot of decision here. I'm gonna go ahead and take Patrick Surtain. I'm gonna go ahead and take Patrick Surtain.
All right. Your last player was K9.
Okay, Kenneth Walker. So yeah, a great player. I think this year they limited his snaps in comparison to last season. Part of that is because Zach Charbonnet is there and also very good. But he showed that he still has some jump this year. Certainly a very good player. I don't think that he's more valuable than a Pat Surtain. I don't think he's even more valuable than Christian Gonzalez, to be honest with you. So I'm quite happy with the fact that I ended up taking Surtain over Walker in that way. You kind of gave it away. You gave me a little bit of hint there with saying that you were going to maybe trick me on one. So I expected the wrinkle there a little bit. Questioned the process.
I couldn't do Matt Stafford 3 weeks in a row, to be fair.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, I have to respect the fact that he could potentially be on the list, right? Like,
Yeah.
you can't say people left remaining and think that the MVP is going to go unnoticed probably this year. So
Yeah, fair enough. All right, well, let's move on to budget players. I got 5 players for you. They play in the secondary, and that's all you get for hints. The first one is Christian Benford.
okay, they play in the secondary.
Key stats on him this year: four interceptions, 2 pick sixes, and a fumble return.
Wasn't he also hurt too for a bit there?
No, he played
Played
all
all
18
season.
games.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
played all 19 games technically.
Oh, see, I think what for me, I question how much he would have actually played if you guys had been healthy. You had a lot of injuries in your secondary, particularly I believe with your safeties. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I mean, he is cornerback 1 on this team, even when
Okay.
everyone's healthy.
Okay. Fair enough. I guess I'm thinking of the Cole Bishops of the world and things like that.
Yeah, but he's a safety.
Yeah. Okay. Um, hmm. yeah. There are guys that would certainly pick over him, right? So I'm going to start him off at 2.
Okay, your next player is Gonzo.
I'm going to go with. I'm trying to think if there's been anyone better than him, anyone that I would want more.
I can only think of one.
Yeah, I'm going to go 5 there just in case you don't say the one.
I'm going to take Jalen Petrie next.
I'm going to go 3 on Petrie.
And then you have Harrison Smith, an oldie but a
Go.
goldie.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 1 on Harrison Smith only because of where he's at now. If we're talking about a career, certainly he's much higher than that. But for the sake of this
I
exercise,
think
I'm giving him 1.
I think he makes the Hall of Fame, to be honest with you.
I wouldn't be surprised at that at all. But certainly Minnesota did not do very well this year. They obviously played well in certain games, especially towards the later end of the season. But it's many more guys than just Harrison Smith and what his impact over the years has been. That was kind of why they won those games.
And then your final player is going to be Xavier Rhodes, Mr. Pick Six and Fumbles himself.
Well, he's going to end up in the 4 spot. I think I'd probably rather put him. I would say at 3. In a lot of ways, I almost want to put Benford above him, knowing that he's there because of how well Benford played this season. Really, really big part of why you had the best passing defense in the league heading into that game against Denver,
Second
right?
team All Pro.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Team, yeah.
I probably would redo it a little bit, but hey, no harm, no foul.
No. All right. The next game I have for you, my friend, would be how many players are better. We both agreed on this one. I'm just running the segment apparently. It's going to be CJ Stroud. I can name one player better than CJ Stroud.
I can name 5 players that are better than CJ Stroud.
I can name 15 better than CJ Stroud.
I can name 18 better than Stroud.
I can name 19. He was real bad.
Yeah, I could probably name 20 better.
I can name 21.
Are we talking regular season? Are we talking about all of the season? What are we talking
We're
about?
talking this whole season, including
All
the
right.
playoffs.
Well, that obviously changes things. I mean, he's had what, 11 turnovers,
In 2
10
games.
turnovers. I don't think
It's
it's
not
10
pretty.
turnovers. He had 3 fumbles that weren't lost
He had
in
3
the
fumbles, 2
Steelers game.
interceptions in the one game, and then had 4 interceptions and 2 fumbles in this last game.
Well, he really technically had 5 fumbles in the Steelers game. There's only 2 lost.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a fumble.
So, it's a humongous amount of turnovers, rivaling on the amount of points that the offense has scored in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're talking about really, really bad numbers. Certainly guys like Jacoby Brissett are going to be able to slip in there. Mac Jones, I would even argue, should be able to slip in there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, I would go with 24.
I'll say 25.
Mm.
You know you want to take 26.
I
That's
do,
very.
but I don't think I'm gonna make you name 25.
Okay. All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Josh Allen.
Go ahead.
Drake May.
Okay.
I'm taking Tua over him, man. Tua had a better season.
Tua got benched though,
CJ Stroud missed 4 games with a concussion.
but
Same
is
amount of
is
games.
is that
Tua had more
worse
time.
than being fully healthy and not being played over? Uh, what was it, 3rd round pick? He very likely is going to get released after the June 1 deadline. Do we really think C.J. Stroud is in that same situation? He didn't even
I
get
mean,
benched for
I would,
Davis
I
Mills
would,
in that
I would,
playoff game.
I would cut CJ Stroud, but I also don't like CJ Stroud.
Yeah, but this is the thing, is that I think all of us see his performance and say, how could that possibly be who you want leading your team? But
Mm-hmm.
D'Amico Ryan is the coach of that team and is obviously making the decision that he is the best person to be leading that team, even after seeing what we all saw in the first half against the New England Patriots, for example, where we all think Davis Mills is probably the better option given what we've seen him do already this season while CJ Stroud has been out, and they continue to make that decision. So I have to give the nod to CJ Stroud. Even if these playoffs are particularly ugly, and that's obviously what we know most recently. If you take their careers to this point, CJ Stroud is at least the starting quarterback. Tua has essentially played himself out of the starting role there. Now it's very possible that CJ Stroud is on that same trajectory now after what we've seen in these last 2 playoff games. But you have to understand that they did win, playoff games with him as the quarterback. That's not something that Tua has ever done. It's not even something that he's done when he's had, you know, a team that should be doing it as well. So
Fair enough. I just wanted Tua on there. But yeah, I'll continue. I'm gonna go with Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow. Even when Joe Burrow played, he was better than him. And I can't say Shador Sanders. But I want to say Joe Flacco.
I will give you Joe Flacco.
All right. You counting these?
Yep. You're at 6
Okay,
at the
good.
moment.
Okay. So we'll go to the AFC South. Trevor Lawrence, Daniel Jones. Who's that other quarterback? Cam Ward. I like what Cam Ward did in the second half of this season. I'm gonna give you Cam Ward and see what you say.
I'm going to say no. I mean,
Fair enough.
I do also like what Cam Ward was doing by the end of the season. He did get hurt in the final game. And in addition to that, just I think a lot of what we saw was a product of him just not having a good enough talent pool around him to be catching the ball and
And
everything like that. I don't
coaching.
necessarily put it up to Cam Ward himself in his rookie year, but CJ Stroud did make the playoffs. Was it for the third street season in a row, and won a playoff game in the first round on the road as well, despite the turnovers that we've mentioned. That's not something I ever think that Cam Ward is possible of, at least from what I've seen so far in his year one
Okay.
season.
Fair enough. And then the other team is obviously the Texans. We'll move over to the AFC West. Herbert, Mahomes, Bo Nix.
You're at 11 right now.
Okay. NFC East. Because I think that's all the divisions. We did the North, South, East, and West. So yeah, we'll go to the East of the North. Dakota, Jalen, Dart. Oh, I really liked what he did, but I'm not going to say him. Played really good for a backup. Marcus
Mariota?
he's got playoff wins. He had over 4,000 passing yards and rushing yards combined. 21
Didn't even stay
touchdowns.
healthy though.
No, but that's always been a knock at him. But CJ Stroud didn't either. He missed 4 games.
You're asking for a guy who started how many games?
13 out of 18.
Okay.
17.
13 out of
Which would be the
17.
same amount as CJ Stroud.
Is that really true that he started that many games? I obviously thought
Yeah,
that Jaden Daniels
because
started
after
more.
week, no, Jaden Daniels only started 3 games. And he missed 1 game with injury.
But didn't Mariota miss the last 2?
Not that I'm aware of. I thought he played the last game of the season.
No, it was Josh Johnson.
But he missed 2 games.
Yeah,
So he played 12 games.
yeah. So, wasn't expected to play the whole season. Didn't last the whole season. You were talking about a backup that didn't even play as many
Okay.
games as CJ
I don't
Stroud.
need a whole explanation. If you're going to say no, you say no. It's fine.
Okay, all right.
Got to keep the segment going.
I mean,
Uh,
if I want to give you the shot, like if you think the guy really should be getting over the line, like
I
interested
really
in hearing
think
an argument.
I think he played better than him for
I
a guy that was playing for nothing.
For a short sample size, in terms of like the games that Mariota was maybe good, sure. There are also games that where Mariota needed to actually pass the ball for them to win the game, and he was not able
Mm-hmm.
to do that. That's a big reason why they don't make the playoffs. Obviously, the Daniels injuries being the primary reason, but the fact
Yeah.
that it's not like Debo Samuel dropped off the face of the earth. They had a
No,
litany of
they played competitive in almost every game though.
and
They only
and,
got
and they
blown
had
out
a
of.
litany of wide receiver injuries. I know you loved yourself some Luke McCaffrey early on in the season, right before he got injured, right? Like you made a big trade with me in a fantasy league for him, literally like 5 days before he gets put on IR for the rest of the season, right? So, um,
Me some Terry McLaurin too, but
and
scary
I
Terry
and
let me
I
down.
love Jalen Lane from a dynasty perspective and stuff like that. I think that
Yep.
guy's gonna be great. But simply put, Mariota is more of a running quarterback at this point. I don't think he's very reliable passing the ball. I think that's was borne out by the games that they played, right? So, um, I hear you in terms of expectation versus like what we saw, especially with the
Mm-hmm.
eye test and everything like that from what we expected. But we have different expectations for CJ Stroud, and I think that has to be recognized as well, right?
Yeah. So we're done with the East. We'll move over to the NFC West. Everyone, Jacoby, Brock, Matthew, Sam. Give me all 4.
I'm going to give you a fifth if you say their name.
Mac Jones.
There you go.
Thank you. All right, let's move over to what is that? The South then? That'd be Baker. I don't know. Baker's a stretch.
Now I'm giving you Baker.
Bryce Young.
Giving you Bryce Young. You're at
I
21 right now.
think we're done in the. I think we're done there. Who else is in that division? What division am I doing?
Tyler Shuck.
Tyler.
For
I'm saying
Penix.
Shuck. Shuck. Shuck played great.
Huh,
He was my favorite rookie.
I it's so tough for
If you
me because I think a
if
lot
you
of
give
his
me if you gave
success.
me Dart, if you give me Dart, you have to give me him because they finished right next to each other.
I argue that it's mostly not Shuck. Like I think Olave had his best season in a long time. I think that makes a huge. Like I think what that argument really comes down to for me is who is the best wide receiver out of both of those teams, or even wide receiving target. And it's Olave by a solid margin with how Nico Collins played and was available or wasn't this season. Chris Olave was basically available until like the last 2 weeks with the blood clots, I believe. So, yeah, I think that is a lot to do with it. I also think it's a lot to do with it the divisions that those teams are in. You're talking about much softer defenses in the Falcons, Panthers, and Bucks than you are the Jaguars, Colts, and you do have I would say mid one with the Tennessee Titans. They have more talent than they play to. But that's because their offense is what it is, and they kind of fall out of games, right? So,
Yeah. Well, we move on to the North.
okay,
Uh,
you're in search of four more in total.
yeah. There's only 3 in the North. I can't say 9, but Caleb, Jordan, Jared. Yep. Jared. You're gonna flame me on Jared. He still played better than CJ Stroud.
Did he? Did his team make the
Yeah.
playoffs?
No, but who had 33 touchdowns?
Who did you see? Was he alive on Christmas Day?
No, he was dead on Christmas Day. The ghost of Sam Darnold played
It was six
for
feet
him.
under day for him.
Yeah. You can't kill him for one game. CJ Stroud did horrible in
No,
2 playoff games.
what I kill him on is how good his offense is, and the fact that he didn't make the playoffs. That's what I kill him on. Right?
All right. Well, you get to make the final decision. Am I going to lose by 2 or lose by 1? Because you won't give me 2 or turn the ball over.
I'll tell you what. I almost want to give you. I almost want to give you Kyler. I think you like totally glossed over him, but I think
Well, I
Kyler
was
is
going to
actually.
say him, but Kyler was way worse.
You say that he was way worse, but I feel like he's a better quarterback than CJ Stroud at this point. Like I think if you
He's a
put
better
Kyler
quarterback.
on the Texans, I think that team probably
Wins.
loses at the same points, but at least looks better. I
Yeah.
think they're able to get the ball to their receivers more.
I don't think Kyler Murray's turned the ball over 7
And
times in one.
by far, CJ Stroud is a young quarterback. I don't know why he doesn't seem to be able to run more than he does. I've always felt that like he went to Ohio State where they don't ask their quarterbacks to run very much, and he's
Mm-hmm.
basically like carried that over into the NFL. It's like the exact opposite of a Justin Fields, which is just hilarious to me as a Michigan fan. But um, you know, I would probably give you Kyler Murray. Again, a lot of it too is it Arizona? Is it their coaching staff, the whole system there, the organization, or is it like actually Kyler Murray too? Like I think that's something that we're gonna find out probably if they make the decision to stay with Jacoby Brissett and he ends up going elsewhere this offseason, which I think is a very real possibility. Um, and so I think by the time we potentially do our QB pyramid, in the fall and see where Kyler ends up. He may be coming in above Stroud, especially the way that Stroud is ending his season.
Okay. Sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties there, but I lose by one player. Unfortunately, you won't accept Tua turned the ball over, so I lose by Tua turned the ball over. I enjoyed him more, but hey, what are you gonna do?
You can't blame him, man. The guy played himself out of a job.
CJ Stroud shouldn't have a job either.
Looking that way, but hasn't actually done it yet.
You know what? Davis Mills.
You know what? I'll give you Davis Mills. I think
Ha!
he's played better this season.
Yes. Thank you, Davis Mills. My long neck giraffe friend. Well, that'll do it on the games besides Quarterback Mountain. I'll let you introduce the segment since you're running it.
So this week for you, we have the QB pyramid. We have Bo Nix. So we currently have on our list here Brock Purdy at 5, Drake May at 8, Jalen Hurts at 9, Justin Herbert at 10, Sam Darnold at 16, and Bryce Young at 17, as well as CJ Stroud at 20. So I'm going to ask you, James, would you take Bo Nix over Josh Allen,
No.
Joe Burrow,
Yes.
okay,
The recency in the playoffs, and his team makes the playoffs every year of his career. He technically made it to the AFC Championship game. Unfortunately, his ankle didn't. But yeah, I'm going to take him over him right now.
okay. Just understanding, Joe Burrow has made a Super Bowl.
I do not care.
Okay,
I think
understood.
I think Bo Nix would have made the Super Bowl.
Okay,
I think he would have.
Fair. Joe Flacco.
I love Joe Flacco, but I have to keep Bo Nix. Joe Flacco's 42 years old and probably retiring.
If you're not going to take Joe Flacco, I'm assuming no Shador Sanders. I'm assuming no Dylan Gabriel. So we'll move on from the Browns. Lamar Jackson.
I'm going to take Lamar Jackson over Burrow. He's made the playoffs every year of his career, but two.
Over Nix.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
No, I'm going to keep Lamar above Bo Nix.
Correct.
Yeah.
So next quarterback on this list, C.J. Stroud.
No.
Understood. Daniel Jones.
Bo Nix.
Okay. Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor.
Okay.
He had a better season.
Okay. Cam Ward.
Bo Nix.
Okay. Patrick Mahomes.
It's Patrick Mahomes.
I figured. Geno Smith.
I'm not writing back.
All right. Justin Herbert.
Bo Nix.
Okay. Tua.
I'm sorry, who?
Tua or Quinn Ewers. Take your pick there.
Oh, yeah, I don't know who those people are.
Okay.
They let me down today.
Fair enough. Brady Cook.
No.
Okay. Drake May.
Drake May.
Yes. Aaron Rodgers.
I have to take Bo Nix because Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be around after this season.
Fair enough. Dak Prescott.
I love Dakota, but I have to take Bo. Bo has more playoff wins than Dak Prescott already.
Fair enough. Jackson Dart.
No. Bo.
Fair enough. Jalen Hurts.
I have to take Jalen Hurts. He's a Super Bowl MVP and he's been to 2 Super Bowls.
Jaden Daniels.
I'm going to take Bo. He's got 2 playoff wins.
So does Jaden Daniels.
It's true. I'm going to keep Bo. He played all games of his career.
Fair enough. Caleb Williams.
Ooh. I'm going to keep Bo by the skin of his teeth.
Okay. Jared Goff.
Jared Goofball is dead to me.
Fair enough. JJ McCarthy.
I love 9. But Bo next.
Jordan Love.
Bo next.
Baker Mayfield.
I trust Bo Nix more than Baker right now.
Okay. Tyler Shuck.
Bo Nix.
Okay. Michael Penix Jr. Okay. Bryce Young.
Bo Nix.
Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy.
Okay. Kyler Murray. Jacoby Brissett. Take your pick there.
Bo Nix.
Okay. Matthew Stafford.
Matthew Stafford.
Okay. Sam Darnold.
Bo Nix.
Okay. All right. So let me just total this up really quick.
I think it would be 8 or 9. Caleb falls again.
So yes, he came in the 8th spot. I didn't have Caleb Williams ranked on this list. So where he comes in at 8, he's tied with Drake May. At 9 is Jalen Hurts, and at 10 is Justin Herbert. So based on the tiebreakers, he's going to end up in the 10 spot. Herbert will get shoved down to 11. May will stay at 8, and Hurts will stay at 9.
Yep. Actually, no. Yeah, no, I said Hurts over him. So yeah, that's right. So he's 10.
Correct. He is 10. I was quite surprised that you took Caleb Williams over him. Because Caleb Williams this season alone has won as many playoff games as he did.
But
he's obviously healthy the whole time.
That's false. Caleb's only won 1 playoff game.
Oh, you're right about that. He did lose last week to the Rams, yes.
And the only reason I put him over Caleb is because of the way they performed in each of these playoff games. Caleb had 2 interceptions. Bo Nix had 1, and he had 3 touchdowns. Caleb only had 1 touchdown.
I would argue that Caleb Williams willed them to that overtime, though. That play to Komet was a bit of brilliance that really only he could pull off.
That was luck. That was
the other
luck.
thing too is that I would argue that Caleb Williams has started to display a clutch gene that Bo Nix hasn't necessarily showed me outside of a couple of games. Certainly the Green Bay game comes to mind this year. In terms of Bo Nix stepping up to the plate and needing to win the game for the Broncos and then doing it. Certainly the Giants game with them being down as many points as they were in the fourth quarter. But I look at Caleb Williams and I think that he does it with a significantly less good defense. They more so rely on the weather and having a above average, I would say, defense, right? So or average defense. So personally, I'm glad that you were getting asked it and ranked it because it would have been a little bit different for me.
I mean, I love Caleb, and you know that, but I gotta give Bo his flowers.
Fair
I
enough.
mean,
Well,
he's done some amazing things.
yeah, absolutely. So that's going to conclude it for our game segment. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will finish up with the review of the divisional round.
All right, everybody, we're gonna jump into the review of the games. We're gonna put Buffalo in the last slot so we can close with a bit of pessimistic optimism. Go from there. So we're gonna start with the Rams at Bears. I'm gonna be covering the Rams as the away team. Brian will have the Bears. Lucky him. But yeah, I mean, this game was tight. It was tight all night. Um, no real crazy performances on the offensive side of the ball, just enough to get the win. Kyron Williams was probably the hero of the game on the offense with getting the touchdown to, uh, tie the game and a big rush in the fourth quarter to get the field goal in range, or sorry, in overtime. But the Rams' ability to run the ball with Kyron Williams proved to be the difference in this game. Kyron scored both touchdowns and averaged over 4 yards per carry and the critical drive to end the first half with a field goal and then tie the game at 10-10. Uh, so we got that. And then going 66 yards in a minute 10. Oh, that's on Caleb's side. My bad. I'll leave that for you. But, I think this game proved quite a few things. The Rams can win tight games. They're still clutch. And Matthew Stafford is still probably the best quarterback left in the playoffs by a wide margin, I would say. No person on this planet in the current day NFL has more fourth quarter comebacks and game winning drives in playoff games that's left. Obviously, there are players that have played with more, but he leads it by a wide margin. Um, Cam Curl, he had an amazing game too. And, the MVP, Puka and Devontae Adams didn't have to do much to win this game. And I would like to say if this game was in LA, this would have probably been a not very tight game at all. So good on the Rams to get the job done. They did everything they had to do. I'll pass it on over to you, my friend.
Yeah, I just before I take it, I just wanted to clarify that that drive that was the 110 that is for the Rams that was that drive where they got the field goal right at the end of the half there to tie it at 10-10. Basically the Bears had just converted a field goal right before that, handed the ball back to them, and they were able to get a field goal to tie the game and bring it into halftime. Eventually taking the lead early on in the fourth on another Kyron Williams touchdown, but that ended up being obviously huge because that touchdown late on by the Bears to only be able to force overtime rather than win the game. The other thing too that I wanted to point out across both teams before I take it here for the Bears is that actually the top receiver on both teams, because of a tie with Puka Nacua, were wide receivers. Um, or I'm sorry, were tight ends on both teams. So that was Loveland for the Bears, and Parkinson ended up tying with Nakua for receiving yards on the Rams. So it's not always that you look at the box score and you see two tight ends as the leading receivers for each team. But that is the case in this matchup. Uh, the Bears, I think they're yeah. Go ahead.
And I also want to say that the Rams defense was huge, forcing 3 interceptions and 2 turnovers on downs. And the Rams punted as many times in the second quarter as the Bears did all game.
Yeah, and it's a perfect transition into the Bears. I was going to say that Caleb Williams' inexperience, the inexperience of this team at large with how young, particularly some of their offenses, with guys like Roma Dunze, Luther Burden, Caleb Williams, Kyle Monangai, Colston Loveland, very, very young guys who have big roles in this offense. At the moment, I think that their inexperience showed a little bit in this one. Ultimately, for me, Caleb Williams threw a ball that he should not have in that overtime. That's in a win, the next score win scenario. And he basically kind of lobs one up a little bit and allows Cam Curl to make that interception. And that ends up being all.
That was DJ Moore's fault more than it was Caleb Williams. DJ Moore slowed down on the route.
Yeah, but you only need the field goal to win the game at that point. For me, you probably should have
Right?
been trying to run the ball or gash them with Colston Loveland on play action over the middle. Um, you essentially don't need to put yourself in a situation where you could turn the ball over, and that's exactly what they did. And it ended up costing them the game, right? In the end, after the Caleb Williams heroics to get Cole Kmet that ball late in the fourth quarter. Um, you know, they continue to show the Bears their ability to come back in games. No matter how much they seem to be down, no matter how good the opponent seems to be, they just seem to be able to find a way to come back. It's just in this one they weren't able to finish it off, unlike so many of their games before it this season. I do attribute a lot of that to the experience, of that Rams coaching staff, of some of their players who have been there and done this before. You mentioned how well that Rams defense played, forced Caleb Williams into a really tough day. Like you mentioned with that punt stat, the Rams, they punted 8 times and still were able to win this game when the Bears only punted 3 times all game. 2 turnovers on downs and 3 interceptions mixed with that, right? In addition to a couple of scoring drives. So you have to give the Rams a lot of credit. The Bears stifled them for much of this game. Probably deserve better defensively, given the performance that they put in and how well they were able to shut down that Rams team. Obviously, weather could certainly be a part of that. You mentioned if this game happened in LA, I agree with you. It's probably more of a track meet, and that certainly favors the Rams much more so than the Bears. Um, so, but again, I don't want to take anything away from the Bears. I think despite the Bears lost this game, they have a lot to be positive about. I think their trajectory is really only upwards from here. I think that it will certainly be interesting to see what the Packers look like when healthy with Mike Parsons and everyone healthy. Certainly I think that team could beat this team. We'll see what the Detroit Lions look like if they can get their act together. I wouldn't be surprised if they could do anything, and if JJ McCarthy turns it around in Minnesota, they could end up being very good very quickly as well. This remains to be seen on whether this was more of a flash in the pan, whether the league is going to be able to adjust to Ben Johnson as a head coach a little bit better next season. But certainly this clutch gene, it's interesting to see. Even when they do get knocked out, they continue to show it. I just want to shout out Jaquan Brisker as well on the defensive side of the ball. He had 14 total tackles in the game. Just pretty unbelievable for a playoff game, and you're basically everywhere when you're getting any more than 10 tackles in a game. So shout out to him. Um, you know, Again, Caleb Williams did absolutely everything that he could, but I think tried to do too much ultimately in the end on this one. I do hear you with DJ Moore, but I think we all kind of know who DJ Moore is nowadays. Probably shouldn't be getting the level of trust that he needs to have in this offense, but given the fact that he's the only wide receiver with more than a couple of years of experience, on the field most of the time, Olamide Zaccheaus is probably the next guy up in terms of experience, and I think he's easily the fourth best wide receiver on that team. So maybe shouldn't be playing all that much. So, but again, want to give it to the Rams. They came in. We had read out all the stats about how bad Stafford has been in cold weather games. How even when he was in Detroit, he's been playing in a dome for most of his career. And he it wasn't his play necessarily that helped silence that tonight. Or in this game, it was Kyron Williams really stepping up for them, as you mentioned. But it certainly is another notch in his belt, and it will be another very impressive win if they're ultimately able to punctuate it with the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. I'm off. Either one in the NFC can win, and I'll be happy. I would prefer the Rams just so another player that doesn't have a ring gets one, and I really want Stafford to make the Hall of Fame without a doubt. He gets that in the MVP, it's locked, signed, sealed, and delivered at that point. first ballot, and we don't have to worry about nothing. But let's move on over to Seattle. No, sorry. Let's move over to Houston and New England. Obviously, I have the Texans in this game. If I do remember correctly, 4 interceptions for CJ Stroud in the first half.
I believe that's right. I would need to double check though.
I am pretty sure. But I mean, man, they pretty much lost this game because of him. And Woody Marks couldn't do anything on the ground in this game. And like the Texans defense kept them in the game as much as possible. But I mean, they just looked outclassed and outmatched. Not much of a close prediction on your side of the fence for that one. You were thinking the Texans would walk away with this win, and they did not. And we did have at the end of the game press conference, we had Mr. D'Amico Ryans confirm that CJ Stroud will be the starter next year. No changes will be made at quarterback. That's crazy to me, man. It's crazy to me. 9 turnovers in 2 playoff games. That's got to be a record of some sort.
And yes, you were right. 4 interceptions in the first half for Stroud. Yes.
And then probably a couple fumbles in there as well.
Third quarter there was a fumble. There was also a turnover on downs in the fourth quarter. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, they didn't play very good in this game. I mean, they gave New England everything they could, but I mean, it just wasn't enough. But yeah, I mean, I don't have much for this game. Secondary, secondary, and the defense got a couple fumbles and interceptions off Drake May, and Ramondre Stevenson. But other than that, man, they didn't do much. It was an embarrassing loss. Again, the curse of the Texans continues. Cannot get past the divisional round in their whole existence. And they are yet to win a road playoff game as well. So very interesting. They've been around since 2002. So a lot of years at this point. But I'll move it over to you.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a lot of years. The NFL can be very fickle. Talk to the Cleveland Browns. They haven't won a title in much longer than that. So. But moving over to the Patriots, the Patriots, they really came out and they took care of business in this one. I think there are some obvious warning signs when it comes to the offense, in particular Drake May, as you mentioned, the Ramondre Stevenson bumble. I think that they displayed nerves in this game. I think that the Texans defense got to them. And if CJ Stroud really was competent in any way, shape, or form on this day, this would have been a much closer game. I think that the Patriots, in many ways, were there for the taking if the Patriots could do anything. Now, the Patriots, I will say, did an unbelievably good job of limiting run in this one. They basically forced Stroud to have to win the game, and he looked like a deer in headlights out there. Basically just throwing pick after pick, like we talked about in the first half, and not being able to much stir very much in the second half as well. A lot of their points came from plays where they were able to get turnovers in Patriots territory and being able to convert that into points, usually in the form of field goals. Obviously they only had 1 touchdown in this game, so it's really just a matter of them only being able to get field goals when being in positions to score, and the Patriots being able to convert that into touchdowns. The Patriots, they did an unbelievably good job, as I said, against the run, but they were able to force turnovers in the passing game. In particular, we talked about the 4 interceptions in the first half. Again, just a really unbelievable game for the defense in this one. I will say Drake May did, have some scoring drives looked okay. I would say, on those particular drives. But again, I think that this is a vulnerable Patriots team from what I've seen. This is a game at home that they're playing as well. They will have to go on the road to Denver next week, and I don't know if I'm ready to say quite this episode whether that I'm going to be forecasting a Broncos win there, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Drake May look very human for probably the second straight game in a row, maybe even third straight game in a row. If you're going to talk about the sacks that the Chargers were really able to put on. Diane Henley was able to get a red zone interception in that game as well. So yeah, I think it's very very possible that they continue to look gettable. Yeah, I will say the one big thing I think that would change that for me is if they started to reintroduce Travion Henderson in a bigger fashion into this offense. I think that he's a real big difference maker. That they just don't feel comfortable necessarily handing the reins off to in a bell cow type of a way at the moment. And I think that could tip the scales in most ways for me. I think if you introduce a way to get yards on the ground without that great possibility of fumbling that Ramondre Stevenson has demonstrated over his career, then you might really be in business there. Certainly that will be tested with whoever comes out of the NFC, given the fact that it's currently the Rams and the Seahawks shaping up in that championship game. That's pretty much going to guarantee that you're going to face at least a formidable defense as well as an offense that can probably put up 28-ish points, if they need to win a game, as they both have shown, particularly against each other this year. So.
Absolutely. Let's move on over to San Francisco versus Seattle. I had the unfortunate pleasure of talking about the 49ers. Yeah, Brock Purdy came back. Christian McCaffrey couldn't do anything. I don't think their defense did anything. They were scored on special teams in the first play of the game. I mean, clearly this game was over right after the first play of this game. The Seahawks stopped them on almost every offensive drive. They weren't in the red zone once in this game for the entire game, not even in garbage time. They got the 6 points off 2 field goals. It was not pretty. In fact, I think this is Brock Purdy's worst game of his career. Yeah, I don't have much for them. The injuries finally caught up to them, man. That's all it is. Can only do so much when half your team is just in the graveyard. I think it's amazing what. Oh my goodness, what's his name?
Who are you thinking of?
I think it's amazing what Coach Saleh did with that defense, and I think it's even more impressive as a whole of what Kyle Shanahan did with this team this season. I mean, they lost Brock Purdy. They lost Kittle twice in this season. Jawan Jennings was hurt. Ricky Pearsall. At one point, they were using Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne and Jake Tungus to win games. I mean, they really went through it all this season, losing Fred Warner, D. Winters. You name it, they've probably been on IR or hurt at least a game this season. And obviously having no Ayuk the whole season. And actually with the lens of doing this a couple of days after all the games, Brandon Ayuk is officially out in San Francisco as of this afternoon around 4:25. We got the official announcement from Kyle Shanahan that he will be released from his contract, and it will be null and voided, so they won't even have dead cap money for conduct discriminatory to the team. So we got that going. But other than that, that's all I got for San Francisco news. I will point this out just in case you were to miss it. Zach Charbonnet did tear his ACL in this game, so he will be out for the rest of the playoff run and probably most of next season. But the floor is yours.
Yeah, so I get the benefit of talking about the Seahawks. They played unbelievable in this one. I will say I was a little bit impressed with this 49ers defense. They were able to keep this within a couple of scores right until about halftime. And then the floodgates really kind of opened. You mentioned that they started off this game hot with the Rashid Shaheed return touchdown. That basically set the tone for the rest of the game. The defense played very, very aggressive and ended up being very, very successful in that. Like you said, keeping the 49ers offense out of the red zone the entire game and holding them to only 2 field goals and 6 points total. Alternatively, on the other side of the ball, they were able to put up points basically whenever they wanted to. Again, once those floodgates opened right before halftime, and they really had their way. Kenneth Walker in particular having a really big day, like you mentioned. Zach Charbonnet going down with the torn ACL. really allowed Walker to get kind of the lion's share of the snaps in the backfield, which is something that we've become accustomed to in previous seasons, but didn't necessarily happen this season, particularly in the red zone. In short yardage situations, that was Zach Charbonnet's kind of territory.
Yeah,
Three
if you're rushing.
touchdowns on the ground from Kenneth Walker in this one. Um, just an unbelievable game from them offensively. Really, really needed that reliance on the run game with the oblique and the potential injury to Sam Darnold, leaving in practice on Wednesday, the week heading into this. So, really, really good to hopefully allow him to heal up. He's obviously going to need to be healthy if they're going to beat the Rams at home next week. Those two games have been unbelievably close. When played in the regular season, I believe it was a 3-point game in LA going to the Rams and a 1-point game in overtime in Seattle going to the Seahawks on Thursday night. So, expect another blockbuster next week. The Seahawks really kind of end up having a tune-up game. As you mentioned, a very injured, in particular, defense for the 49ers. But when you add Kittle into that, it gets really, really tough. So, just a really tough game for the 49ers, really beneficial, game for the Seahawks in the sense that they get to bye last week. They get this game this week where they basically get to hype themselves up for what's going to be the biggest game of their season, a rubber game with the Rams next week.
All right, yeah, absolutely, man. It's going to be wild. I mean, it's basically probably going to be the best game of the playoffs, but who knows? Anything's possible with these playoffs this year. Let's move over to my absolute nightmare in life. You got the Buffalo Bills game. Obviously, it was at 4:30 Eastern on Saturday. First game of the week. Ruined my weekend completely. But before I cover the game, I have some things that I would like to say. I'm gonna be a little ragey for a minute. You don't really know what it's like to have a superstar quarterback. I mean, you had Eli Manning, but I mean, he was in no means considered a superstar. He was like, the top of mid, give or take.
I would argue he was a superstar to us. I don't know if the rest of the league considered him a superstar.
Yeah. So obviously I love Josh Allen. Josh Allen he's a god to me. He could do no wrong. But you know what? We really need to look in the mirror and realize that he has flaws in his games. He's not good at throwing the deep ball anymore. He hasn't been in many years. You look at the stats and it backs it up. Does he have less talent than he's ever had on the offensive side of the ball besides James Cook and an offensive line? Probably. But, every time you throw the ball to Khalil Shakir in this playoff run, he went perfect 18 for 18 on targets this offseason or this postseason. Sorry, and then the tight ends kind of played all right in this game. Obviously, Dalton Kincaid had a touchdown, but Josh Allen, he's got problems, man. I don't know. I watched him play the Chiefs 4 times in the playoffs. He's thrown 1 interception in those games. We did not need a superhero performance in this game to win. I guarantee if we don't turn the ball over 5 times in this game, we win this game. Doesn't matter about the interception / catch, however you look at it. Personal opinion on the matter. I'll get to that after. But I mean, Josh Allen can't be fumbling the ball with 12 seconds left in the half and turn the ball over to the Denver Broncos to just kick a chip shot. Well, not a chip shot. Field goal is 50 yards, but more of a chip shot in Denver than anywhere else in America, And then, you have the 2 interceptions. Obviously, the second one, I'm not really going to dog him for. I mean, he was trying to make a play. It was an incredible throw. And however you are on the fence of that, I thought it was a catch. He had the ball in his hands, hit the ground, was down, made a football move, in my opinion. But unfortunately, the tie went to the defensive player for some reason, even though it's always been the offensive player.
I think it was
Um,
more of a commentary on did he complete the process of the catch more so than
yeah,
like simultaneous possession or anything like that. We spoke about this off camera, and
yep,
I think that it would have gone whatever way they called it on the field, whether that was a
yep,
catch or an interception. But I'm sorry for
right.
cutting you off.
No, you're fine. I'm not going to dog him on that, but the fumbles were absolutely insane. I don't know what he was trying to do on that run. I mean, we were nowhere near scoring position. Just at that point, I would have just kneeled it out and went into halftime, only down by 7. It was 10-17, more than enough time. You start with the ball in the second half. We ran down the field, scored our anyways after he threw his first interception. Just on an awful play. We had 3 turnovers and 2 minutes of game clock. That gave the Broncos a 13-point lead at that point. So yeah, I mean, if that fumble, absolutely inexcusable. The interception, I mean, shit happens, but it still wasn't fun, and it was not a good throw. I don't know what he was doing. The second interception, I'm not going to dog on him. The second fumble was absolutely atrocious, and the James Cook fumble, it's like, come on, man, you're just shooting us in the foot. We're in scoring position. We would have gone up 14-3 at that point. So it was just an unfortunate series of events. But Josh Allen's decision making has been questionable at best this season. I know he's forcing the ball a lot more with a lot less talent there, but at the same time, um, I saw you do 4 perfect drives in this game where you were just taking what was available. You know what? We have a limited offense at this point besides the running back position and quarterback. Just take what they give you in these playoff games. That's what you've been doing against the Chiefs for years, and you've been making crazy plays as well and not throwing interceptions and not turning the ball over. I understand the Broncos defense is good, but at the same time, man, they've been at the lower tier all season in turnover rate. They were 31st. It's insane to me. It's like, just take care of the ball and you're moving on to the next round. Your coach isn't fired, most likely. Depends on what happens the next week, but we could we could go back and forth about that dialogue all day. But at the end of the day, they didn't do enough to win. They deserve to lose with all the turnovers. You can't have 5 turnovers in one playoff game and expect to win. And they were right there. It just, man, it hurts. And then losing Sean McDermott, I didn't think it would bother me as much as it has since watching the first press conference without Sean McDermott being in our staff. I think our owner made himself look like an absolute buffoon, and I think that a lot of that wasn't even on Brandon Beane at this point. I have a little bit more respect for him now. I think this was all on the owner. Josh Allen didn't even know that Sean McDermott was fired until Sean McDermott was covered on ESPN, or however broke the news. I believe it was Adam Schefter, but I'm not 100% sure. So yeah, it was very rough. A very annoying game, as you could tell with me texting you while you're driving to your family uh, down lower in your state. Just absolutely aggravating. The defense stiffened up, and we just could not do enough. We even stopped them once in overtime, got the ball, and all we had to do was kick a field goal. Should have just took what the defense gave us and walked out of that game lucky to be alive. Obviously, Bo Nix breaks his ankle too, or bone technically in his ankle. So it's like, damn. It's just, I know that you believe in the Broncos defense, but I don't think it's going to be enough to stop the Patriots. I will say it myself. But, Dalton Kincaid played pretty good for how many limited snaps he got. Josh Allen was the reason we were in the game, but also the reason we lost the game. James Cook, he played good all game besides that one fumble. Khalil Shakir, probably the best player on offense in this game from a talent of receiver. Defensively, Shaquille Tomlinson, he got another interception in this game. The one turnover that the Broncos committed. Just, it was abysmal. I think there were a lot of questionable calls at the end of the game with the defensive pass interferences, especially the second one. The first one, I could see to a degree, but the second one, the ball hits hand, Tre'Davious White hits. It's simultaneously. That should not have been a penalty whatsoever. The first one, though, yeah, I mean, it was fair. It was close. But I mean, when you're that deep into a playoff game with 5 minutes left in overtime, I think you should just let the players play unless it's absolutely egregious. Almost as bad as that Super Bowl penalty, that second one when the Eagles and Chiefs played each other in Super Bowl. What would that be? 57. Because we're going into 60. Yeah, so 57. That play on, I want to say it was James Bradbury covering Rashid Rice.
Was it Rashid Rice?
I
Yeah, I
believe so.
believe so.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just absolutely abysmal. That call was BS. And then no matter what happens, the game's finalized. Nothing's going to change either way. But the Broncos also teed off on Josh Allen a couple times. And just a lot of dirty play from both teams. I think this was a very aggressive defense game. I mean, obviously, look what happened to Bo Nix. I mean, he lost his ankle on the field. But the Bills even stopped the run game in this game. I think the leading rusher was Bo Nix with like 21 yards of rushing. So I mean, they did everything they had to do to win the game. If they don't turn the ball over, we probably win this game 35-21. I'll give Bo Nix all his touchdowns that he threw still, but I think we would have pretty much crushed them. We were almost in scoring position on almost all the turnovers for the most part, too. So just an unfortunate forced errors on our part. And Broncos, they had themselves a day. I'll cover the Broncos side of this, too, as well. Obviously, the news coming out of this, Bo Nix broke his ankle three plays before the game-winning field goal in overtime. Stidham's going to start in the AFC title game. The other thing that was interesting in this game is that anytime a player would go out in the Bills secondary injured or had to come off the field for protocol, the Broncos scored a touchdown. So the first one, they scored a touchdown with an offensive tackle. I can't remember his name, unfortunately. Then Marvin Mims scored a touchdown when Tre'Davious White went off the field because he had to get checked out. And they attacked Dane Jackson right there. And then the third touchdown was, I want to say, their backup tight end. And that was when Thompson went out for one play.
I think you're thinking about the first. You're talking about Crumb?
No, Crum was the offensive tackle.
Oh, okay.
That's
that was the first one. Yeah. Okay.
That was the first touchdown. Then it was the Marvin Mims touchdown. Actually, that was the last one, I think. And then I want to say the third touchdown was the backup tight end. And he got it off Spector. So, I mean, it was interesting how they attacked our defense when we were down a player. And, another thing I hate to bring this up because it's so beyond anyone's fault, but I feel like we should not have started Maxwell Harrison in week 18. You could have threw Dane Jackson out there. They won that game comfortably. He didn't need to be out there, and he would have been healthy for this game. Then Trey White wouldn't have been in the game as much. Obviously, he played really good for the most part, besides the penalties at the end. But yeah, just an unfortunate way to go out, and then an unfortunate injury for the Broncos. It just you hate to see it because it's like, GG, you guys got us. I hope you win it. And then for them to lose their quarterback 33 minutes after we find the final ending of that score, man, I was good. Go ahead.
All right, James. So you covered both sides of the Broncos Bills game there. Obviously a very very tough one for the Bills. I'll say it so that hopefully it doesn't hurt as much. When I ask these questions afterwards, off of this foundation, but this was probably, I would say, the best chance for the Bills to win a Super Bowl in the Josh Allen era to date. I think that's why it was so difficult for everyone emotionally after this game was over. You saw Josh Allen being emotional in the press conference. You saw the offensive line as well being emotional because Josh Allen was being emotional. Obviously you have the refereeing decisions, the controversial, interception call that leads Sean McDermott to being emotional in his press conference as well. I think rightly so. I think that play is a subjective play in the end, and what the referee decides to call on the field basically dictates what that's going to be. Um, and if the decision is anything like let's call it a turnover because then it gets automatically reviewed. It gets automatically reviewed anyway in overtime, right? So you don't even necessarily need it. That can't be the reason, hopefully, why they made that call in the end. But I just wanted to ask you a couple questions about the Bills. Um, obviously we're in hindsight. We know that Sean McDermott has been fired at this point. Um, you as a Bills fan, given everything you saw, do you expect any other Bills coaching changes? And that I guess includes the front office.
Yeah, obviously, as long as Joe Brady doesn't get the head coaching job, I assume he's gone, going somewhere else. I could see them scrapping pretty much everything that's there for the most part, down to even like line coaches, wide receiver coaches, etc. The only only coach I could see really staying is the quarterbacks coach, because Josh Allen obviously gets the say in that. And he likes his guy over there. But yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty cleaned house. I don't think that we'll retain our defensive coordinator. I can't think of his name off the top of my head right now. Uh, he hasn't even met with the media since this game at all. It was just Sean and Joe that met with the media. Defensive coordinator has been MIA since the end of that game. Um, Sean took all his questions, so yeah, just yeah, I would say it's going to be a clean house situation.
Fair enough. Well, you mentioned a little bit that you thought that maybe Josh Allen was trying to do a little bit too much, trying to be Superman. This one that ultimately was what cost you in the game with the turnovers and everything like that. You mentioned that James Cook did have the one fumble, but he was very, very efficient in this one. I would say that this was probably the second time that we've seen the Broncos get gashed on the ground. This
Yep.
season in a really effective way. Um, would you agree with me if I were to say that I also think that this is somewhat coaching as well, not just Josh Allen trying to be Superman. Uh, if I go ahead and say so much as if they just run the ball more with James Cook, they win this game as well.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it really sucks because the previous week we couldn't run the ball at all, and it seemed like they thought we wouldn't be able to run the ball in this game, and they went Josh Allen heavy when they could have probably went 50-50 and won this game easily.
Yeah, that's the one thing that stood out to me looking over how this game went. Kind of with the eye test as well, with how good James Cook looked on a lot of those runs. Obviously did have the fumble, and I believe the fumble was in the first half as well. So that maybe
Yeah,
you
it was
kind of
right.
got
It
the
was
coaching
right before.
staffs.
It was at like the 28-yard line,
Yeah, and it was
right before the red zone.
early enough in the game where it gets in the coaching staff's head probably a little bit too for the second
Yeah.
half. Obviously, you were down, at one point in the game, 20-10 there late in the second quarter, as
Yeah.
well. So, that may play even more to the coaching staff thinking that hey, we got to be pass focused here, to try and make up that deficit and make sure it doesn't grow. So, um, you know, you've obviously had the coaching change at this point. I imagine. Can you just elaborate on Joe Brady? I'm curious to hear what your thoughts of were him. I know that you're maybe not someone who sings his praises in general, but do you think that he did a good enough job in this game? We talked about obviously them not utilizing James Cook more, but they were right on the precipice of winning this game, and barring a controversial refereeing decision, they probably do go on to win this game, right? So I'm interested to hear what commentary you had. Looking at the scoreboard, they certainly put up, I would say, enough points to win this game, and you probably give up more points than you would expect to on the defensive side of the ball, especially when I tell you that the Broncos are not going to rush the ball very well. Like you mentioned, Bo Nix being their leading rusher, RJ Harvey not having very much on the ground. But go ahead.
Yeah, as far as Joe Brady goes, I think the only way he's retained is if they can't land one of the better coaching opportunities. I think that he's a decent coordinator, but I don't think he's ready to be a head coach. And honestly, it might not even be his fault to a degree. I think a lot of it has to do with the way that Brandon Beane built the roster this year. Because as you saw last year, we could throw the ball with ease, and the only player we really lost was Matt Collins. Everyone else was retained. That was of relevancy that I can think of. I don't think we had anyone else besides Josh Palmer that we added. I always call him James Palmer for some reason. I think that's because that was Josh Allen's old quarterback coach. But Josh Palmer is the only player that I think we added on the offensive side of the ball catching, besides Jackson Hawes, but we drafted him. And I think that Matt Collins is the only player we really lost. Maybe there's one other one I can't think of, but I think that's about it. But I mean, we just did not have the receivers to get open. Keon Coleman did not ascend at all this season. I think he actually played worse to a degree. Other than week 1, I don't think he really did much. I mean, I know he scored a touchdown in this playoff game, but I mean, it was the only play he made of relevancy. But yeah, no, I don't want to. I also think he'll just be a yes man, Brandon Beane, and accept whatever he does, and he won't fight back. That's my other reason I don't want to retain him whatsoever.
Fair enough. And then my last question was, sort of now that we know at least where the Bills have ended their season at, I'm interested to hear your thoughts now. See if you have any change in perspective on kind of like Mac Hollins, man. Like that guy's with the Bills last year. Looks like one of your more important receiving targets at times, and he ends up going to the Patriots and being basically irrelevant. I would say for most of the season, given how they chose. I mean, it's mostly Stephon Diggs, Hunter Henry, in the running game. Obviously, Booty contributes a fair amount. Kyle Williams does as well. But I would argue Mac Hollins has a minuscule role in comparison to what he did with the Bills the season prior.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, that's a situation where you allow a free agent, of relative value to you, end up walking over to a division opponent. Essentially like they almost have in some ways a wasted year as a result. And I'm interested to hear. Obviously, I know that Brandon Beane is not your favorite person. Regained a little bit of respect from him listening to that first press conference after Sean McDermott is fired. But is this regime, this current regime, something that you have confidence in when you look at stuff like that? Given sort of again for me when I point out the fact that Mac Collins has as insignificant of a role as he did on that Patriots team this year, it suggests to me that there's a wide gap in some ways in between the Patriots and the Bills. I would argue that it's obviously two ways, with Josh Allen being better than Drake May, but Drake May's options at wide receiver and receiving targets being so much better now at this point than what the Bills have. Do you think that you've witnessed that happen? I would say very rapidly because Drake May was not this good last season, and they really only attempted to put guys like Stephon Diggs around him. Obviously drafted Travion Henderson, this past year. Do you have confidence in this regime? That they're going to be able to steer you in the right direction. We've talked at length at times this season about how the Bills are really engineered to beat the Chiefs, and now it's almost like you have other teams that have entered the fray that you potentially now need to wonder whether you can beat them as well.
Well, the first thing I'll comment on is the Mac Collins point. I mean, I understood why he didn't come back. He got 1 year, $14 million. I mean, we were up against the cap wall at that point to a certain degree, and we did not see the value in bringing him back at that price. We offered him 1 year, $7.5 million. Obviously, you're going to get $7.5 million more dollars. I would go there too. wish he took a hometown discount. Not that he's from Buffalo, but already with us the previous year and had one of the best years of his career. But is what it is. I mean, I don't think a player like that is worth that much money, in my opinion. I think New England was throwing shit at the wall at that point, unsure of what Diggs was going to be, unsure of Booty, Douglas, etc. The only sure person they had for sure was Hunter Henry. He's always been reliable. May not be the best tight end in the league, but he's always reliable. As far as the regime itself, yeah, I mean, it's my team, so I'm going to have faith. It's tempered expectations right now, but we also have a superstar quarterback and a superstar running back. And as long as that offensive line can play good, we'll be all right to a degree. I just want to see some major changes in the wide receiver room and then on the defense. I'm not worried about the running back room. Just bring back Ty Johnson. Ray Davis has got 1 year left in his contract. You can draft a late round running back too to bring up, or just retain Frank Gore Jr. and keep him around. I very much enjoy him when he does get to play. But yeah, the wide receiver room and then the safety, the free safety position and the defensive line / linebackers. Figure it all out. Figure out which combination of players you want to keep, whether that's releasing Terrell Bernard from his contract and taking a little bit of a cap hit. He did not play very well at all this season, a player that me and you were very high on going into the season, and he played like absolute dog crap all season. There's a lot of hearts that are going to be broken this offseason with the amount of players that the Bills should get rid of. Matt Milano was in the final year of his deal. I would not bring him back. Don't get me wrong, he's an important part of this team, but at the same time, health is very questionable. I want a player that's there for all 17 games in the regular season and the playoffs. I wouldn't bring back Joey Bosa. He had a really good first half of the season. Second half of the season, he kind of just disappeared. Obviously, we're stuck with Groot no matter what. And Ed Oliver, I was just happy to see Ed Oliver in this last game. Hopefully, he has a better season health-wise next year, and I'll be fine with him still being here. Obviously, Jordan Poyer won't be back next year. He's going to retire. He's 36 years old. Sorry, 35. But yeah, just absolutely need to get rid of these old players and bring in players of youth and or that are very good but not too old. I really want to focus on the wide receiver room and the defensive side of the ball, and I think we'll be just in a perfect position. Got a great kick returner, have a decent punt returner. Tyler Bass should be back next year. I would talk to him about lowering his pay with him missing the whole last season. He is a pretty big cap hit for a kicker. And then punter, we just pick up whoever's available. As always, we don't ever really focus on that position since we drafted Matt Ariza, and well, we know how that situation went, so we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much my keys of what they need to get done this offseason. They need to cut Dawson Knox, and then they can re-sign him to a better price deal. He makes absolutely way too much money. He'll be the second highest paid player in the team next year. That is not something that can happen.
How is that actually possible? He's going to get
when we
James Cook?
Yes. When we re-signed him, he was the starting tight end. And then Bean panicked and drafted Dalton Kincaid because he wanted to draft a wide receiver. And then went with the tight end that was supposed to be the second coming of Jesus in his draft. So, yeah, that's how that happened and came to be. But yeah, we have to release him from that contract or he has to take a major pay cut. Because it's bad. I want to say it's like $28 million next season. James Cook is 14 and a half next year. And that's the highest year of his deal is next year. So, yeah. As far as that goes, Dawson Knox has to go. Or take a major pay cut, whatever it takes. But yeah, that's all I got on that question. Anything else?
Nope, that's it for me. If you don't have anything else in that game, I think we'll call it a wrap.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for watching. Sorry for the sadness in my voice this week. It's just been a long week. weekend. Obviously, I've been covering everything that I can with the Bill side of things for us. So it's basically a full time job for me this week. And then like, comment, subscribe. Let's get the comment section going. Let's start some conversations and talk about what you think your team will do or one of our teams. We'll take anything in the comment section. Other than that, do good, be good, go Bills. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, we hope to see you all on Friday at 7 to catch our next episode. And we'll be putting this one out at 7 p.m. tomorrow via live premiere. So we hope to catch you there. If you don't have your notifications on, make sure to get those on. Make sure to turn that bell on so that you can get notified of when we post these videos and those premieres happen. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to be able to chat with you. But until then, we wish you all a good night.